Voices of the people who are putting so much into this festival kind of all together in a room, it really almost makes me kind of emotional because it's really special to me that you all are here and doing so much for this event. All of you are the foundation, the trailblazers, the pioneers of this festival. It is because of you that Grand Prairie and the Peace Region has the honor of enjoying one of Canada's premier folk festivals. And I mean it. We really are being celebrated all over the country by attendees and artists. I just keep hearing stories from people who are excited about the festival and who have, I keep hearing from people who haven't been to the festival but they've heard from other people that have been, so it's amazing how word has gotten around. By show of hands, who here is a returning volunteer? Wow. And so by show of hands, who here is new? Welcome. And who here has volunteered all 4 years of the festival? Oh, thank you guys so much. And lastly, have any of you never been to the festival before? Woo! Well, you guys are in for a treat. So I am amazed by where our volunteers come from. You really do come from near and far. Bashaw, Baytree, Beaumont, Beaver Lodge, Besançon, Brownville, Calgary, Claremont, County of Grand Prairie, Dawson Creek, DeBolt, Donnelly, Edmonton, Fairview, Fort St. John, Good Fair, Grand Prairie, Grimshaw, Grovedale, Gunn, High Prairie, Hines Creek, Hinton, Hythe, Leduc County, Lethbridge, MD of Greenview, Millet, Moberly Lake, Peace River, Sexsmith, Sherwood Park, Spirit River, Spruce Grove, St. Albert, Tumbler Ridge, Valley View, Vancouver, Wanham, Wembley, Woking, Tempe, Arizona, and Petersdorf, Germany. So what's going to be happening over the next couple of hours? Well, we'll talk a little bit about how the festival works. We'll talk about the site. We'll discuss some safety info, your responsibilities, some helpful tips, perks. Do feel free to ask questions at any time as we go along, but perhaps to save time, save really team-specific questions, comments, or suggestions for afterwards, and all will stick around and be here to address any really specific issues. This is your festival. It runs on honesty, built on respect and appreciation of others. A motto of mine is flexibility and stay safe and have fun. You are such a huge part of the vibe of this festival. Your attitude guides how the audience experiences the event. So we want you to have fun because they in turn have fun. We also want you to be safe and responsible. So how does this work? Artists from around the world come and play for crowds of thousands. This year we have Feist, Blue Rodeo, Crash Test Dummies, Dan Mangan, Ellen Doyle, Ruthie Foster, and many more. And honestly, every year it feels like it's the gems and the little unknown artists coming in that end up being the crowd favorites. So I really look forward at the end of the year to hearing who your favorites were this year. We run 3 stages, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So we do run 3 stages. We have a main stage and then 2-day stages or 3-day stages that run artists' workshops, concerts, and basically workshops, for those of you who are not familiar, are situations where we have 3 or 4 artists on stage at the same time, all playing together, jamming, exchanging songs. So they're really, really special part of the festival, and really the meat and bones, the meat and potatoes for a lot of people. You get to see these really intimate, lightning in a bottle moments that really you don't experience at any other time, because you don't see this combination of artists on stage at the same time. So you really get these up close and personal moments, and it's very, very special. So what do we have? We have a beer garden, a kids area with tons of free kids activities, kids performers. This year we're also partnering with the Center for Creative Arts, and they're going to be running a sandstone carving center, which is going to be a lot of fun. We have food vendors, craft vendors, and a whole lot more, as you can see by this list. We also have a festival kitchen where we feed you, our artists, and our special guests, and we'll have more on all of that later. We pride ourselves, and I have to tell you as an aside, Bill Hallam, our kitchen manager, has sent me a sneak peek of the menu, and you guys are going to like it. He has really outdone himself this year. We really pride ourselves on being an accessible and inclusive and welcoming event, and we always look forward to feedback, or look for feedback to know how we can do things better. At our gate 2, we have assistance for any low mobility. We have low mobility assistance as well. We have passes for aids, and this is a little known fact that we are trying to get out a little bit more, where if somebody is requiring an aid to help them, they will be able to get that aid in free of charge so that they can enjoy the festival. And those passes are only good while the aid is in service of their client, and then they have to hand them in at the end of the day. We have, on the Thursday we added last year, a lot of you know, a free event downtown. It's just in front of Better Than Fred's, and this is an all-ages event open to the public. It's going to have some of our fest performers as well as some local performers. It's a really excellent time. It starts at 4:30, so any of you who are not on shift, do definitely check it out, and also do help spread the word about it. At 9 p.m. things move indoors to inside Better Than Fred's, and we'll have Kaylee Cardinal doing a concert until the wee hours, and entrance is by donation for that. So one of the new things that we have this year is we are doing our best to go much more green. So this year we have a new green initiative. We're doing this in phases. Our first one is to eliminate as many single-use plastics as we can, as well as working heavily to reduce waste on our site. So most important thing for volunteers to remember is to bring your own water bottles and cups or drinking vessels. Because we are fully phasing out the use of single-use water bottles this year. We will have a ton of water fill stations around the site, but we will not have disposable water bottles before, during, or after the site. Not even our vendors will be selling them. So you need to have something to fill up the water into. Returning volunteers will be aware that we have a roving refreshments team who comes around and brings drinks to volunteers on shift at during the festival. We will still be doing that, but they will no longer have bottles containing the drinks. They will just have large containers that they can fill your bottle, cup, or travel mug with. So really do make sure that you bring something. And we're also fully eliminating disposable cups of any kind in our kitchen. So if you go in the kitchen and you don't have a cup of some sort with you, you'll have no possible way of getting a drink. In the past, we have encouraged volunteers to bring their own Tupperware or plastic plate or cutlery to help reduce waste. This year, I'm really encouraging that. To make it a much more pleasant process, we are seriously improving the dishwashing station that we have at the festival, in the festival kitchen. I know it was, for those of you who were troopers in the past years and did do it, it was a little lacking, that station. But this year it's going to be heavily improved. It's even going to properly have hot water this time. If you're on site and you have forgotten your cup at home or your water bottle, I mean, we don't want you to go thirsty. We will have reusable water bottles and travel mugs as well as cups that for sale to volunteers, and you can get a tumbler mug for only $3. So and if you're really desperate and you don't have the $3, I'm sure we can work something out. But in general, try to bring your own, and if not, we will have them available for sale, both in the kitchen and at the volunteer services area, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So who do you need to know? First one, that's me. Hi. I've been the one corresponding with a lot of you by email and handling a lot of the pre-fest administration with the volunteers. I'm also the festival producer, so on the festival weekend you'll see me running around like a crazy person dealing with other stuff. Gordy Hackstead, our assistant producer, his job is really hard to describe, but he kind of does everything. You'll see him all over the place. David Banks, our production manager, is basically deals with technically putting together the site. He deals a lot with the musicians, but he also makes sure the tents are put up correctly. Shane Pierce, our site coordinator, does our permits, and he's kind of the fixer of pretty well everything. It feels like there's nothing Shane can't do. We are so lucky to have that amazing team working with us. This is their 4th year back, and I am very grateful. Those of you who don't know them, they're there to help. So, never feel afraid to ask if you have a question. But also, if they ask you for help, please do help them. The festival is also made up of volunteer teams. We have 32 teams that make up the festival. Most teams, although there are exceptions, are broken into usually 3 crews. Most crews do 3 shifts during the festival. Most shifts range between 4 and 6 hours. It really depends on what team you're on. And some of them are just configured differently than others. So it roughly, again, depending on your team, amounts to about 15 hours over the Friday or Saturday or Sunday. Plus, there is a 4-hour setup or teardown shift. So right now, I just want to quickly, there are a lot of crew coordinators and team leads in the room. I would love if you all would quickly stand up and just one by one introduce yourself, just your name and what team you are running, so that everybody can kind of put a face to you. Whew. Okay, so we'll start maybe on this side and kind of go that way. Thank you. So your team lead or crew coordinator will likely have at least one meeting if they haven't already. It is up to them kind of when and where that will happen. But I really do recommend doing your best to either attend that meeting, or if you can't, get in touch with them and see if you can get Skyped in, or at least find out what happened. The way we have it structured, in many cases, it is your crew coordinator that you'll actually be dealing with the most, although again, it really varies from team to team. And in some cases, the crew coordinator doubles as, one of the crew coordinators doubles as the team lead. So if you have a question or concern, please write or call them. And if you have not heard from your crew coordinator or team lead, it might be because you've just recently filled out the form and not been processed. In some cases, also double check to make sure that we've got the right email address for you. So much of the communication that we do happens by email. Please, especially with this last month before the festival, make sure that you're checking your email. And if there are any really serious concerns, you can definitely also just reach out straight to me. If a problem arises while you're on shift that you cannot solve or are unsure how to deal with, please inform your crew coordinator. Also, work together to solve problems, and if they need help, they'll defer up to the team lead, who even when they're not on shift, they're always on call. So there's always somebody that you can go to. If it's a medical emergency, we have a first aid tent with professionals who are highly trained, so you could go straight to them. If the issue is a safety issue, we have a security team that is run by volunteer security, but there is also paid security as well as an RCMP presence. Make sure that you're comfortable with any task that you have been assigned. If you're not comfortable with something, don't just kind of suck it up and do it. Do speak up, let your crew coordinator know I really don't feel comfortable with this, and they can assign the task to someone else, or in some cases maybe reassess whether this is being done the way it should be. But we never at any point want any of you to be feeling unsafe or uncomfortable with something that you've been asked to do. We do also have a new team this year that I'm very excited about. And this is, there was a little hint of it last year at the top of the hill. Oops, what am I doing? Here we go. The Volunteer Services team, which will be located at the top of the hill where we had that trailer last year. And they are going to serve as an important hub and a home base, both before and during the festival. And Melinda Muse, who introduced herself earlier, she is running that team. Small team, lots of components. So they will be located, like I said, right at the top of the hill in that general area where we had that kind of up by operations, where we had that little trailer last year. And we are expanding what we had last year to include a tent and, I'm happy to say, a hospitality area. So you can meet up with people, you can have a drink or a snack. There'll be a little bit of shade to grab. It's a great place to kind of meet before or after a shift, or, while you're kind of waiting for something. This is also, and this is new and very important to know, this is where you will go to register before the festival. So all of the volunteer shirts, the lanyards, the wristbands, none of those will be at the Padolin this year. You don't have to go all the way over there. They'll all be right at the top of the hill at the volunteer services area. They will also have the radios, so you don't have to wander all the way past the ends of the earth to go get your radio either. It's just all going to be centrally located in the middle, right at the volunteer services area. They will also have runners, both before and during the festival. So what this means is if your team suddenly runs out of something and you're getting slammed, you don't actually have to send one of your needed team members off to the store to go figure that out. You can radio up to the volunteer team. They have petty cash to go buy stuff. They have runners with a vehicle that's right there. They can go get that for you. Just give them instructions on what you need. They'll bring it. They also have on site, they'll have the ability to run stuff around the site as well. So it'll allow teams to be able to focus a lot more on just staying in their area and doing what they need to do. Additionally, they'll have a box of stationery and random items. So if you suddenly find that you need a Sharpie or a pen or some really common thing, before even needing a runner, check with them and see, they might even have something like that. When you come to do your setup shift, please check in at the volunteer team. So, and they'll instruct you on where to go. They'll also mark your name down so that we know that you've come to your shift. During the setup or tear down, if you have a job that is been finished and you're kind of at odds and you don't know what to do, always go back to the volunteer team. In the past, we've lost a lot of volunteers and then didn't have them when we needed them because they finished one job and thought, okay, well, I guess I'm done, and went home. And then when the next thing came up, we're left a little stranded trying to find volunteers to fill roles. So if you're not doing anything, definitely come and have a seat, and don't feel bad for a second about, if in between jobs you find yourself sitting and having a coffee. That is just as valuable to us as somebody working hard, because it means that you're right where we need you when we suddenly have another big job, because everything is so timed depending on when other jobs are finished, when trucks come in. So there really is a lot of flexibility and fluidity needed with the setup shifts. We give specific times, but it's never going to happen exactly the way we think it's going to. So we're really grateful for the flexibility, but like I said, just kind of always check in back there, and then that way we'll always know where to find the help that we need. So during the festival, as mentioned, the volunteer team will act as a hospitality area, but they will also act as information central. So if you have volunteers who don't show up for their shift, please radio up to the volunteer team and let them know, because we need to track that. If your team is getting slammed and you need more people, either because people didn't show up or just because you're more busy than you thought you would be, radio up to them and volunteers will be found for you. And likewise, if you have idle volunteers, if you're less busy than you thought you were going to be and you have 3 people kind of sitting and not really doing anything, please let them know, because chances are we really need those people somewhere else on the site. And on that note, I really do definitely ask for flexibility on that. I know we've all been sort of assigned into the teams we want, but there are moments where we end up having to kind of go do other jobs on other teams, and it's not always the job that we thought we kind of wanted, but that type of flexibility with such a beast with moving parts that is the festival really is what's needed in order to be able to kind of keep things going. So a volunteer who will operate very closely with the volunteer team, and someone you should all familiarize yourself with, is Logan Smith. Logan will be our on-site volunteer liaison in the time leading up to and during and directly following the festival. So anybody with any human resource issues, if there's kind of a problem or a spat on your team, he's the one that you're going to want to call. He's also going to be the one redistributing volunteers, so he'll be the one kind of magically finding volunteers for the teams that really need them, and helping to reassign volunteers who are not necessarily needed in that moment on their team. He's also going to have the really tough job of terminating volunteer positions when necessary. So if there's a real kind of break in the rules, or it doesn't happen often, and I really hate it when it does, but he's going to be the one with that unenviable task. So for any sort of personnel issues, you'll want to call Logan. Either call him directly, or if you're not sure who you want to talk to, call the volunteer team, because they will act as triage. They'll either send you Logan or they'll send you one of us. If it's an artist-related issue, if there's something directly relating to one of the artists, you should usually call me pretty well every time, especially if it's something serious. If it's something site-related, or kind of safety-related, there's something wrong with one of the tents, or a problem there, chances are the person you need is either Gordy, David, or Shane. So if you try one of them and that doesn't work, try the next one, but those 3 are really there for you for that. So I would love to just kind of have Logan come up here and quickly introduce himself, because he's someone you really want to get to know.
Well, thank you, Sarah. my face is so big. So she asked me to send her a picture. I thought it'd be like this big like theirs, but oh my gosh. My name is Logan Smith. Last year I was parking team lead. Is there anybody here for parking today? Just curious. Okay, nobody on the parking team that's here? Hopefully next meeting there will be. Yeah, so I will be human resources for the Folk Festival. If you have any issues, call me. Like Sarah said, I'll be working through the volunteer team mostly. So any issues that you have, if you're not sure what you're doing or where you need to be, or if someone doesn't show up, talk to Melinda Muse at the volunteer tent, or me, or she can get a hold of me. And if you just need anything, if you have questions, it's probably best to come to us first for those easy things, and then we can help you out so we don't clog Sarah and Gordy down. But yeah, so I'm just here to help you and have a lot of fun, and hopefully not fire you, so no pressure. Looking at you, Amy Jeffries. No, I'm just joking. All right. Yeah, so keep me in mind, after this meeting, I'll be around for any questions. If you need my number, or if you have any questions after this meeting, just come up and talk to me. I'll be coming to a lot of the meetings that are upcoming too, so you'll see my face a lot more, hopefully. Yeah, so that's everything. Thank you.
Thanks, Logan. So, the site. For any of the newcomers to the festival, all of this might seem like a lot to remember, but once it is all in action, most of the people that have done it before can tell you it really actually works quite well, and it's not all that hard. The setup and teardown. So before the festival, we have setup starting on Sunday, August 11th, when we put up our fence, and it runs pretty well right through till the gates open. We're kind of doing last minute setup. It is mandatory for all adult volunteers to do a setup or teardown shift, but those shifts can really vary. So sometimes that shift will be just helping your team set up. For example, there are very few people in the kitchen team that I'm assigning separate setup shifts to, because that team has so many elements and so much extra setup required, and there will be a bunch of people from, for example, the merch team or some of the teams that have a lot to do. So we will be exempting a bunch of people from site setup, and we really also do our best to really find roles that are suitable. So if you're low mobility, or if you kind of aren't good with really physical tasks, we want to make sure that whatever role that you get is suitable to what you're comfortable doing. And so the site setup shifts, they can range from anything from kind of the big pounding in of tent pegs and helping set up the site itself, to sorting volunteer badges and helping out the volunteer services team, to kind of throwing in an extra night security shift to help our night hawks, and in some cases, like I said, just kind of setting up your own area. I have almost finished putting together the setup schedule, so that should be completed sometime in the next week, and sometime hopefully in the next week you'll all be hearing from me as to what your shift is, and then you kind of just be in communication with your team lead, because we want to make sure that it doesn't conflict with any of the other stuff that you're already doing. Stages. So, I'm going to try this out. Here we go. It works. So during the day we have 3 stages. Oh, except it's so dark. And I'm right-handed. There we go. There we go. Okay. Right. The daytime. It was impressive while it lasted. So the stages 1, 2, and 3 are our daytime stages. So those run starting at 11 in the morning on the Saturday and Sunday only. That's where you'll see those concerts and those workshops that I was talking about. And those run simultaneously. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, everything shuts down for the main stage, which is that one right in the middle. And so The main stage runs from 2 to 3, and then it shuts down, goes back to the side stage concerts, which run until about 6 p.m., and then it goes back to the main stage. So things are very free-flowing during the day. People park their tarp in front of the main stage in the morning, and then they kind of wander from stage to stage, and then in the evening they kind of all congregate where the main stage is. The gates. So not new are the main gate at the top of the hill and the gate 2, which is, like I said earlier, our low mobility, all access or low mobility gate. The passes are only sold and will call tickets are only at the top of the hill. So gate 2 is just really for people who already have their ticket and they're exchanging it for a wristband. New this year is the volunteer gate. So when you come in to register, you'll have to kind of come in through the volunteer entrance to get into the volunteer area to get your lanyard and all of your stuff. And then when you're coming into the festival to get to your shift, if you work in the main site, that's also where you can enter from. And then we have a variety of other areas. These are all quite similar to previous years. The beer garden is the same place it always was, kind of with a nice sight line to main stage. The craft vendors are on the grass, just like they were last year, kind of near stage 3. The food vendors are all at the top of the hill, except we have one food vendor in the beer garden. And the kids area over between main stage and stage 2. And then the snack shack, which is our festival concession, is right there as well beside stage 2. And they're expanding this year. I'm really excited. We're going to have coffee and lemonade slushies as well as mini donuts. And I'm pretty excited about that. Additionally, as mentioned, we have our operations yard at the top of the hill, the volunteer area right beside it. You can see the arrow there. The smoking area, backstage, and the first aid tent. None of those things have moved, so if you're a returning volunteer, you'll know where they are. If you're new, it'll all be pretty straightforward, but also we will have site maps and stuff to be able to help you with that. As mentioned, we are going to really be upping the number of fill stations. These are the public fill stations. We will also kind of probably have other smaller stations in some of the other areas too, just to make sure that teams stay hydrated. But additionally, we'll have the roving refreshments bringing liquids around. But these are the main big public stations. So last year, I think we only had 1. Now we're upping that to 4. So another thing new this year, up until now we've had that lovely camp kitchen trailer. This year we don't. So we are building a kitchen from scratch in a tent. And it's going to be lovely, and it's going to be located in the same area as the previous kitchen was, but it's just going to be a tent instead of a trailer. And again, just a reminder, wash station, bring your own dishes, cutlery, plates, Tupperware, etc. So we'll just take a quick little slight detour and talk about security and safety. Safety really is of the utmost importance for you and really all those around you. Your tasks should be safe, and you should feel safe in your environment. So if you don't feel safe about something, please, like I said before, speak up. Also, if you're being harassed in any way, whether it's by another volunteer, an attendee, or even an artist, please tell us. We don't ever want any of you to ever have to get in any sort of conflict at any point. That's not really what you should have to do. So any conflict, defer it straight to us. We will handle it. Generally, safety should be observed by everyone. So if you see something that isn't safe or it doesn't seem right, please speak up. Kind of, if it doesn't look right, just chances are it could have been something that was missed. In addition to telling your crew coordinator, one group that is really good to know is our security team. If there's something or someone that's unsafe, please, they'd be the ones to let let them know. I am really, really proud of the friendly vibe and demeanor of our security team. A lot of people think of security as being these big kind of gruff security guards or bouncer types, but that's really not what it is about for us. These are friendly, smiling people that are really more than anything kind of gatekeepers and just basically assisting, making sure that, they watch who's coming and going, and they're really the eyes and ears of the festival. So that's a message that we've been working on getting out and rebranding that team away from those previous stereotypes. But they really are a lot of the big smiles that you'll see across the festival site. We do have paid bonded security to deal with people. So if, for example, like I said, somebody's drunk or unruly or causing any sort of problem, it is always the paid bonded security that you want to deal with that. So if you're on the security team, again, your job is not to have to deal with any sort of conflict. Your job is to see the conflict and immediately report it so that one of the paid security can handle that. Yes? Oh yeah, I mean, overall, just across the board, we should have a stronger security presence. In the past, I mean, they've just been so short-handed that it's been tough. But definitely, that was something that we have are working hard to address. This is a folk festival, so people are inherently friendly and chill, quite honestly, and mostly it's positive vibes. You don't see that same kind of rowdiness or roughness that you see at some other types of music events, and any of you who've been to the festival before can attest to that. It really is a very family-friendly, warm atmosphere. I mean, there are always little things that'll happen, but it's not a rough environment by any means. But like I said, however, if someone is doing something that they shouldn't or that is unsafe, and you feel, and if you feel comfortable talking with them and addressing it in kind of a gentle way, we're okay with you using your judgment. If it's a matter of kind of, oh, could you please kind of move over here, or your chair height is the wrong height. But anything beyond a simple could you please, or anything like that, like I said, please always divert it to the paid security every time. So in the very unlikely event of a major emergency, whether it's a lost child or a severe weather event, which obviously, knock on wood, is not going to happen, we do have an emergency response plan to handle events like this. So it's kind of like a pyramid. The information goes to the top makes a decision, and then the actions filter down through the chain. Primarily, the chain is through the security team, and you should take your cues from them. It'll generally be either David, Gordy, or myself who is making the major call as to if, for example, the site needs to be evacuated. But then we will be sending all the info through the security team, and they will be the ones armed with, okay, everybody needs to exit through these exits, and the really big key is just listen to them as they take their cues from us and take your cues from them. And in the event of an emergency, please do keep radio chatter to a minimum so that those radio frequencies are available for what really needs to be discussed with that event. And so in the case of an evacuation, we'll filter people out through the nearest exits or muster points. So west would be GPRC parking lot G. North, access to the reservoir to the large green space. East would be out gate 2, so the pavilion entrance near the playground there. And south would be out to the museum, either to their parking lot or to the staff parking lot. So all of those are located on this map. So this year, now that cannabis is legal in Canada, we've had to kind of put some policies in place around that. Municipal law allows smoking in parks only through a special events license like ours, and then only in designated areas, and not where liquor is consumed. So our policy is really just to allow the smoking of cannabis in the designated smoking area, along with the tobacco. Unofficially, of course, we are a folk fest, and like many other previous years, it does happen, and most of the time it's very, very discreet if it's a problem. And anytime, if you ever hear, if you're on security and you ever hear of a complaint about it, obviously then it needs to be dealt with, and the person needs to be asked very nicely to move to the smoking area. But in general, the vibe that we're trying to put across is we're not looking to come across with any sort of police or militaristic vibe or approach. So, what do you do? First, get accompanied with your team and crew. As we mentioned, be on the lookout for your team meeting if you haven't already been to one. And if you are a team lead who has not contacted your crew yet, definitely now would be the time to get on that. If you are on a team and you have to miss your meeting, really do try to arrange to speak to someone and find out the scoop of what your role is. Next, register. As we talked about, the registration has changed, so all of that is going to be at the top of the hill at the volunteer services area and not at the Podolin. And the registration, the check-in times are all right there. So it starts on Wednesday, kind of Wednesday evening, Thursday throughout the day until 8 p.m., and then Friday. And honestly, you really do, before the festival starts, before gates open at 4:30 on Friday, you want to have long registered. So I definitely recommend kind of going in sometime before that and getting your stuff to make sure that you have a decent amount of time to get to your shift. At the check-in area, you'll also be able to buy a program, as well as, like I said, water bottle and any other things that you might have forgotten. Something that I forgot to mention before about the volunteer services area, but is really worth noting, they are a hub and a go-to area, but what they are not is a place to leave your stuff. So just kind of be aware of that. There's no way, I know it's a really tempting area to want to kind of ask if you can stash your backpack, but they're so, with close to 600 volunteers, it just really could get out of control really quickly. So we ask people to just kind of leave that area for the volunteers in that area. And as historically has been done kind of team by team, you really do have to sort of work out where you can keep your stuff, whether it's in your car or, kind of some teams have a tent, but it's something that you kind of have to figure out team by team. So your volunteer t-shirts. Do wear your volunteer t-shirt while you're on shift. Absolutely feel free to customize it however you like. People have come up with all kinds of really cool designs. You might want to consider washing it in between days if you're really super busy. Do not wear your shirt while you're off shift. So definitely make sure that you bring a shirt with you so that you are able to change out of it when you're done. The public and other volunteers will think that you're on shift if you're wearing your shirt, and then they'll start asking you questions, and you don't want that. But also, another reason to not wear your volunteer shirt is, for example, if you're in the beer garden, it's actually against the AGLC rules, our liquor license rules for people to be on shift and drinking. So if there's appearance of that, it could actually be really, really bad for us. So you absolutely don't wear your shirt on shift. Likewise, don't wear your lanyard while you're on shift. You'll have a wristband, and that's kind of what gets you in and out of the festival. So while you're on shift, you need to wear all of those things. While you're off, have the appearance of a regular fest volunteer and just enjoy yourself. Now, bunch of you have been asking about what color are the volunteer shirts this year. And so finally, I can show you the design and what our new shirts look like. Ta-da! Again, a huge, giant thanks to our amazing designer, Jacqueline at Rebel Bent, who turns out just anything that you see that's visual that the festival has, including the shirts and the merchandise and everything else she does, we are so lucky to have her. So the festival badges and lanyards, your badge is what you wear while volunteering, and it does have specific access to certain parts of the site and identifies you to attendees, artists, and guests as a volunteer. If you're on a team that works backstage or requires being backstage, you'll have a little key symbol that you'll see right there on your pass. Only with the key signal symbol are you allowed to get backstage. One really important note that got misinterpreted a couple times last year is even if you do have the key symbol on your pass, it does not permit you to hang out backstage. So the only time you should be back there is while you're on shift working. Like your shirt, like I said, please don't wear the lanyard while you're off shift. The lanyards, please return your volunteer lanyard and your name tag holders to the team manager on duty at the end of the shift on Sunday or during teardown. They're actually surprisingly expensive, so we really do try to repurpose them whenever we can. You can definitely take the little print out if you want to keep it as a souvenir, but please do return that. But your name badge is what's going to get you in for your meals. So it's got those little hole punch. Oh, thank you. Someone smart has a real pointer. Those are what get you your meals. So you'll go into the kitchen and they'll punch your Saturday meal, and then you'll get your meal. The little star is for the after party, and this year we're working super hard to make sure that the youth volunteers also get access to the after party. It was tricky, didn't quite work last year, but it's looking like it is going to work this year, and I'm really happy about that. So do get to know the badges and what they are, so that you can very quickly and easily identify what somebody's role is just based on the color. So if you see a black one, you'll know it's crew, and you'll immediately be able to identify what that person's role is. So wristbands. This is what gets you on and off the site as an attendee. So you can show your wristband at any of the gates. When you're not on shift, you don't have to come through the volunteer entrance. You can come through the main entrance. Just have your wristband on and you'll get in. They're good for the whole weekend. Setup and teardown. As I mentioned, you really do need to fulfill one shift of either setup or teardown tasks. Helping set up your area does, like I said, in many cases qualify. It really depends. When you arrive to help, like I said, come with your water bottle and do sign in at the registration. For the setup and teardown shifts, you don't have to wear your volunteer shirt, but if you do, by the time the festival starts, it's going to be just filthy. So wear your normal clothes for the setup and teardown shift, with the exception of the people who are helping with night security, with the Nighthawks. Then for those security shifts, it's not a bad idea to wear the volunteer shirt. Since our setup and teardown schedule can be affected by changes out of our control, like I said, we really do ask for flexibility. Vehicles on site, only those volunteers assigned access to golf carts and rangers can use them. So if you have not been cleared, you cannot drive them. If you are a driver of a vehicle, you cannot give access to somebody else without clearance from above. To a vehicle. So we've had a couple instances in the past where people had a vehicle somehow that they shouldn't necessarily have had, and that's actually a really big liability on our insurance, so we have to make sure that that doesn't happen. Also, during setup and teardown, no vehicles of any kind can come down the hill during setup or teardown without the permission of either Shane, David, or Gordy. So we really need to be careful about how we treat the hill. It's very easy to tear it up and get ruts and stuff, and we just, there's, especially weather dependent, there's certain ways we have to do things. So absolutely, if for some reason there's a truck or something that needs to come down the hill, absolutely contact one of them first before trying to do that or authorizing it. So shifts during the festival. This is where you're helping out your team where you were assigned. There's always a chance, like I said, that you might have to temporarily move to another team if some other team is really, really getting slammed and you're not busy, and I thank you in advance for your flexibility on that. But your shift is still your assigned shift regardless of where you're working. You're still considered as putting in your requested hours. And like I said, just the key is absolutely be flexible. Be on time. In fact, be a couple minutes early. If you're late for a shift, the volunteers before you are having to work longer than they should have to. And then they're not able to go enjoy the festival. So it's really up to all of us to make sure that we do our part. We all rely on each other to relieve each other from our roles. So, like I said, please be on time. 10 to 15 minutes early, then that way you'll be able to get briefed on whatever you need to know, and you'll be ready to actually start your shift when the shift starts. So be aware some of the shifts are really far and kind of on the other end of the site. In those cases, make sure you're early enough to kind of be in your area 10 minutes before you start. Really important, you must be fit for work. If you decide to have a drink or a cigarette before your shift, just make sure that you allow yourself enough time to kind of be ready for your shift. You know, you can't be drunk. Probably better, if you don't kind of smell really bad. If you show up impaired, we won't be able to allow you to work your shift, and we will have to get Logan to fire you. There is no smoking while you're doing your role. I understand, definitely the need to have a smoke if you kind of, need one at some point, but the really key thing is we don't want attendees seeing people in their shirts smoking, so it would have to be done discreetly and kind of while you're on break and somewhere. And the really key thing is no smoking in any areas ever outside of the volunteer, outside of the smoking area. So, if you're on a break and you really need to smoke, kind of maybe put something over your volunteer shirt, and make sure it's in the designated area. If there's an artist that you really want to see, talk to your coordinators, because a lot of them are really, really flexible and really do try to accommodate the people if possible, because we want you to have the best time possible. And if, say for example, they can work the schedule in so that you're able to actually see that concert of the artist you really, really like. They'll usually try to do that. Sometimes they absolutely can't, but there's even the possibility then of, kind of, if they're not too busy, kind of letting you kind of sneak off and at least see a couple songs. So do stay in really good communication with your crew coordinators, because, everybody wants this to be the best possible experience for everybody. What to do when you're off shift? Really enjoy the festival. But if your shift starts midday or starting later at night, just be really aware of the time. Kind of don't lose track of time. Make sure that you're on time for your shift. If you miss your shift, and this is my least favorite part to talk about, all the managers at the festival are forgiving. However, there is a deal that has been made. You do your 3 weekend shifts of the festival, plus your setup or teardown shift. In some cases, there are volunteers doing tons more than that, but that is kind of the requirement in order to get all of the perks and benefits of being a volunteer. And in exchange, you get into the festival for the weekend, you get a fantastic after party, you get fed for the weekend, and a whole lot more. So unfortunately, if you break the deal, that means that the deal is off. Meaning if you miss a shift, or if you show up drunk or unfit for a shift, and that includes the setup and teardown, because that is also a really important part, then unfortunately it means we do have to fire you. And in that case, it means not only the removal of your wristband for the weekend, but it does also affect the likelihood of us being able to take you back as a volunteer next year. So if there's an absolute emergency that comes up, or if something happens where you absolutely can't make your shift, or there's medical emergency, or something happens with one of your family members, people are really understanding. You just make sure to let your team lead or your crew coordinator know. Just don't leave them stranded. Let us know, and there are always exceptions to any rule, and above all, health and safety first, but do make sure that you keep that communication open, because if you just don't show up, then that is when it is really a violation of the volunteer agreement. Behavior. So part of the code of conduct that you all agreed to when you signed up the volunteer form was to maintain appropriate behavior. And I hate getting all serious about that, but bad things actually really can happen, and it is very important that we provide a safe and enjoyable experience for everybody. It just takes kind of one person really acting out to kind of wreck it for a lot of people. So while you're in volunteer mode, really do put the attendees and the artists first. So at the beginning of the festival, for example, don't put your tarp or chairs down until they've had a chance to come in and do that. Last year we had a couple of people kind of sneaking tarps in early. Please don't do that. The hill should be fully empty, minus the volunteer tarp, which is for you guys. But apart from that, when the gates open, it really should be a fully empty hill. Treat our artists, special guests, the VIPs, and the attendees as an extension of our festival family. The feedback that I get of why they have such an amazing time is honestly very much and 100% due to how wonderful and friendly the volunteers are at the festival, and that is something I'm really proud of. Backstage access. So at the backstage bar, massage tent and green room, those are for the performers and the special guests or the VIPs. So unless, like I said before, unless your role requires you to be back there, no volunteers should ever be back there. Unfortunately, there just, among other things, isn't room. So if you want, so with artist interaction and photos, when an artist is in a private area like the backstage area, for example, or in the kitchen eating, please don't take pictures of them or bug them for an autograph at that time, because that is their relaxed time when they're kind of away from all of that. So just kind of remember they're people just like you and me, even if it's really exciting and you sit down and then notice that Jim Cuddy's sitting right beside you at the table. Keep your cool and don't suddenly start trying to take a whole bunch of pictures of him. There is the autograph sessions happening at the merch tent all weekend, so you can get your CD or your record signed there, and that's also where there are kind of actual designated photo ops, or kind of wandering around the site as well, but just kind of in those private areas. Please really do respect that privacy. Also, please don't use your role as a volunteer as a platform to solicit or sell anything to our guests or artists. This is, again, something that's come up a couple times. So when you're wearing your volunteer shirt, you're a volunteer of the festival. So just remember that you're a representative of the festival at that time, and whatever other things that you do for a living are not part of it in that moment. So what to bring? The days are long. So really do take care of yourselves because we need you to last all weekend and have a good time. Stay hydrated. Wear sunscreen because it's definitely going to be sunny. Bring appropriate clothing, jacket, poncho, rain hat, water bottle, as mentioned, have your wristband, volunteer t-shirt, change of clothes, your plate and your cutlery and all the stuff you need for the kitchen, blanket, sunscreen, umbrella because it's not going to rain, and cash for anything that you kind of want to buy, and the festival chairs. And just a quick little note about our chair policy. A lot of you are aware the main seating area is just low-backed festival, or they're called sometimes beach chairs. There's fantastic seating sight lines for people that require a higher chair if you're low mobility and you need that. But that is certain designated areas. And just if you or a guest need to be using a higher chair, check in at the main gate as you're coming in, and they will be armed with the information of where those designated seating, where that designated seating is. And as mentioned, there is no designated storage for your bag. So if you feel comfortable leaving it in your team's area, you can do that. Or if you can't, you could leave it in the car, or, kind of improvise. Getting to the festival. So if you're driving, please park at the GPRC parking lot because that is definitely where there is the most space. The Composite High, the Grand Prairie Live Theatre. Definitely recommend carpooling. Another thing that isn't included in any of these slides, but we're really working hard to put together a bike lock area so that we're able to really encourage people to actually ride their bikes and have that kind of be another easy way to get to the festival. City Transit, there was a little glitch with this last year, but I'm assured that it's going to work this year. So if you have your festival wristband, it gives you free admission on the City Transit buses during the festival weekend. So you can just hop on a bus. Like I said, bikes, we are really working on getting a bike lock area. It'll be up at the top of the hill, at the bottom of the hill by gate 2, kind of in the Muskosipi Pavilion area. And the shuttles, there is a shuttle team kind of driving back and forth between the hotels, the site, and the after party as well. This really is for the guests and performers. Every once in a while, if you're really desperate, they'll probably, if they're not full, they'll probably let you jump on. But just really remember that is for guests and performers first. And it's a little shuttle, and there's just way too many volunteers, so it's not something that we're typically recommending that people rely on. So your benefits. We pride ourselves on the way that we treat the volunteers at this festival. I've heard a lot of feedback from other events, and I'm really proud at about what we're able to do. You get free access to the festival for the full weekend just by showing your wristband. You got a fantastic after party on Saturday night. This year at the after party, it will be Reverend Sekou is going to be playing, and he's this fantastic kind of funky gospel band, as well as Hey Wow, who played the after party last year, and they were just so much fun. We're bringing them back. That'll be at Better Than Fred's. Starts at 11:30 and will run till 3 a.m. It looks like we will be able to get an extended liquor license, so they'll be serving liquor 1 hour longer. As well, like I said, we are working to be able to include youth in the after party this year. And you also get a volunteer t-shirt as well. We do put a volunteer tarp on the hill, so although you're not allowed to kind of pre-place your tarp, we do have a nice big volunteer tarp where you can kind of come and congregate and sit when you're not on shift and hang out, and we try to put that in a really good area. And then my favorite part, you get fed on Saturday and Sunday. And like I said, the menu is going to be fantastic. We have an amazing kitchen team. I'm just blown away every year by what they do. So lunch hours are from 11:30 to 2. Dinner hours are from 5 to 7:30. Like I said, make sure that you bring a drinking vessel because there will be no cups of any kind in the kitchen, as well as your plates and stuff. If you've got an allergy, be aware. I mean, we really, if it's a lethal allergy, you probably might want to bring your own food just because we don't want to be responsible for that. But in general, we have a really good selection. We do have vegetarian and vegan and gluten-free options. The kitchen also will have takeout boxes. So if your team is really slammed and you're just not going to be able to make it to the kitchen during your shift and you feel like you're going to miss lunch or dinner, don't go hungry. Radio up to our volunteer services team. They will dispatch roving refreshments and they will come bring you some meals. So that is something just to kind of always know that you can do. Also, just kind of be aware and courteous at the kitchen. Performers, do let them jump ahead in line. Sometimes they have a really limited window of when they can eat, and then they might need to be on stage. So sort of be aware of that and don't mind if performers need to jump ahead. Please do RSVP for your meals. I'm going to be sending out a form, just a really short little form, sometime soon. And I just need for all of you to let us know which meals you're likely to attend so that we can get a proper count, just to avoid food wastage. Because, with 600 people, if we cook for 600 and then only 300 of you show up, then we've cooked a whole lot more food than we needed. We will also be sending out our volunteer handbook really soon, so please do take the time to read it and familiarize yourself with it. Often the answers that you need are in the handbook. And another thing is know the festival beyond your area, because you are all ambassadors of the festival. I've been to other events where I pull up at the... Oh, sorry. Jill? No, if you are volunteering, you have access to those 4 meals, whether or not it corresponds with your shift. So you can eat all 4 meals all weekend. You can work in the morning. If you're on night security and you're not working at all during any of the meals, you can still come for all of the meals. Yeah. Really do your best to know the festival beyond your area. I've been to other events where sometimes I'll pull up at the main gate of an event and I'll ask where something is, and the person at the front isn't able to tell me how to get to this other area. Even if it's not part of your area, it's so fantastic if a volunteer asks you a question for you to be able to be as helpful as possible. And so the more that you know, the more helpful you'll be. If you don't know, definitely try to point them in the right direction. So what do you do now? This was a lot of information. Now, basically, help spread the word. So on social media, please like our festival, like our festival's Facebook page, or kind of help to share posts whenever you can. If you see a festival post, definitely, like I said, we really appreciate it if you help spread the word. Or if you're not a social media person, let people know. I'm so happy to say this is the strongest year we've ever had for volunteerism. We're currently sitting at 440 volunteers, which is about 40 volunteers more than we had total at the festival last year altogether. Now, having said that, last year we were really super understaffed, and a lot of you had to work way harder than you should have had to make things go smoothly. So it is my goal this year, and I'm absolutely determined to make this the year that people only need to put in their regular amount of hours, and they don't have to feel guilty about leaving their shift and going and then enjoying the festival, because it's covered. So it is my goal that for the first time ever to fully and completely fill all the volunteer spots and have a waiting list by the time we hit the festival weekend. And I really, at the rate we're going, I really think that's possible. So our goal is to reach 550 volunteers. And that means that we have about 115 more to go. And honestly, with the amount of people in this room, if every single one of you got one person to volunteer, we would have that nailed right there. So please do help spread the word, because that makes all the difference. As well, keep helping spread the word about attendees to attend the festival. We hope that your pride in this event encourages your friends and your family to want to check it out or come back for another year. So don't be shy about spreading the word. And make sure that you help to spread the word. If the festival is outside of someone's budget to attend, that there are these fantastic opportunities to volunteer, and then you can see the event for free. We are very proud that our festival brings so much joy to so many people, and we strive for the site, the people, and the atmosphere to create a magical and positive experience for everybody. So we have a lot of really fun components, the bunting flags, the banners, the lanterns, the candles. It all comes together to make a really beautiful looking site. But you are the spirit of the festival. So definitely, be patient as you go, take initiative, keep smiling, because it really is what makes it trickles down to everybody else. We've tried to think of as much as we can in terms of logistics, and we've been improving every year, but there's always more learning to do. So there are definitely things that we have likely forgotten. So we look to you to solve problems in unforeseen and unexpected situations, which will definitely happen. Honesty is the glue of our communication. So definitely be honest with each other and with yourself. And if you feel overwhelmed or unsure, your crew coordinators, your team leads, Gordy, myself, David, we're all here to help you. We've been lovingly calling this a folk family since the start, and I really do feel that way. It's amazing. I am absolutely so proud of the group of people that we have. And it's been a real privilege this year. This is the first year where I have had the opportunity to work a lot more closely with the volunteers and find out, what a wonderful, amazing, talented group of people we have running this festival. And it's amazing. So definitely take a breath, feel proud. That's coming. That's fun. Know that we really are known across the country. I've been to events in the UK where I've had artists from Ireland come up to me and tell me that they've heard about the festival. Or, I was in Montreal recently and I saw a guy in an elevator wearing a Bear Creek Folk Fest t-shirt. I was so stoked. We have attendees from out of town who are planning their family vacations and family reunions around our event. You really are the driving force that helps to create that. Like I said, I feel so incredibly proud and privileged to have such an amazing group of people that we have working so hard and giving so much to making this event happen. Know that you have legitimately changed people's lives. I've heard stories about people who have had, actual, life differences made because of either attending, volunteering at, or playing at the festival. Make sure that, let's welcome each individual from every walk of life, from wherever they're coming, whatever age, with open arms into our festival community, into our festival family. Let's send them on their way with smiles every time they leave our gates, and back with smiles when they come back in. Let's just absolutely take their breath away one more year. So, lastly, I just want to thank everybody so much for giving everything that you do. And now I'm going to show this little video. It's only 30 seconds long. Gordy put it together. It's the first time we've actually had a little commercial, so I'm very excited about it. It's on our Facebook page. So if you go, it's posted on our Facebook page. So you can go on there and yeah, please share the heck out of it. So that's it for now. I'll be here if you have any questions. Thanks again.